Our Premier Doug Ford is doubling down on his promise to eliminate speed cameras. Today, he announced that he's going to table legislation as soon as next month to ban the automated speed enforcement program, promising instead to give municipalities money to implement other traffic measures. Ford has repeatedly said that he thinks the cameras are just a cash grab and are not proven to be effective.
People are fed up. They're tired of getting tickets for 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers over. That no officer that I have ever met, and Mark can speak on this, no officer would ever give you a ticket for 5 or 6 kilometers over. Matter of fact, you'd never get pulled over if you're going 5 or 6 kilometers over.
CP24's Beatrice Vaisman joins us live with more on the Premier's announcement. Beatrice.
Kari, lots of reaction to this new legislation that's going to be coming before Queen's Park come the end of October. Let's get more reaction now with Brampton Regional Councillor Rowena Santos. Councillor, thanks so much for being here. You heard the Premier there saying this is a cash grab. He believes municipalities use these automated speed enforcement cameras as a way to put more money into their coffers, which then doesn't go back to improving road safety. You refuted that in your statement you put out this morning. Tell us why.
Well, this is absolutely about public safety and making sure our kids and vulnerable users of our roads are protected and safe. That is always the premise of these tools. And in fact, it was the provincial government in 2020 who wrote legislation to allow municipalities to use this tool in order to make our streets safe. It is not a cash grab, and again, the fines are set by the province of Ontario legislation. But what we do know, Beatrice, municipality after municipality who has implemented it, particularly in the city of Brampton, we know it works. Sick Kids Hospital, TMU, CAA, the doctors, the chiefs of police, and in the city of Brampton locally, we have evidence and data showing that it changes behavior and it slows cars down. And by possibly canceling it, we haven't seen the legislation yet, we are potentially throwing out the baby out with the bathwater on a public safety measure that is saving lives.
You talk about Brampton having data to show that drivers in areas where there are cameras are slowing down. The Premier says that's not the case. What numbers do you have that are contrary to what the Premier is seeing?
In many cases, we have seen over 70% of speed compliance, so people who are now following the speed limit in community safety zones where there are speed cameras. In other cases, we have seen roads reduce in terms of kilometers per hour, 20 kilometers per hour in the studies and data that we have seen since we've implemented it. And in other cases, we have seen roads go from 69 kilometers an hour to 39 kilometers an hour. And I get it. You know, I get it that if you are 5 kilometers over the limit, that you shouldn't get a ticket. And certainly in the city of Brampton, we have implemented best practices with our thresholds, and it's working. If you are going 5 kilometers an hour over the speed limit in Brampton, you're not going to get a ticket. But what we're trying to do is prevent people from going well over the speed limit. There are people on our local streets that are going 20, 30, 40, 50 kilometers over the speed limit, and we need to change that behavior, especially in these community safety zones.
Councillor, you put out a statement calling for a compromise with the Ford government. Certainly your mayor, Mayor Patrick Brown, generally has the ear of the Premier. They tend to agree on things. What kind of compromise would the city of Brampton like to see when it comes to these cameras?
You know, Premier Ford is a friend. We like Premier Ford, and we know that sometimes he could get a little bit stubborn, but that's okay. In cases where, you know, some of the decisions weren't in the best interests of Ontarians, we have seen him show compassion. We have seen him reverse some of those decisions and collaborate to find a better solution forward. And this is one of those cases. The data, the evidence is there. Do we need to make it more fair? Sure. I've heard from residents in Brampton saying, Councillor, we support the cameras, but the fines are too high. So working with the province to deal with the affordability issues of the fines, one example of this is in Brampton, auto insurance rates are extremely high. It's one of the top complaints from our residents. So what have we been doing? We've been implementing traffic calming measures, including speed cameras, to slow cars down to prevent accidents from happening in the first place. So instead of giving people fines when they're caught on the speed camera, How about sending the speed ticket to the auto insurance industry? So no fines, but send it to the auto insurance industry and let them decide what repeat bad behavior should be charged.
Final question for you, Councillor. The Premier today saying municipalities like Brampton will not be reimbursed for the infrastructure they've already put in place, like these cameras. Instead, there's going to be a fund for more speed bumps, for more signs, for more curb extensions. Is that a fair compromise for you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the municipalities that I've spoken to who have cameras, are investing in cameras, have cameras already installed, like the city of Brampton. We did so under the premise that the province was the one who created the legislation and encouraged municipalities to use it in the first place. If the province back in 2020 told us that you should not be using speed cameras, and none of us would have invested in it. Are we implementing other traffic calming measures? 100% we are. But the data shows that speed cameras are the best way to slow down traffic. And so if they're not going to reimburse us for the cameras and the investments that numerous municipalities have already paid for, that's highly problematic. And also, I will note, because I've studied this a lot with the traffic management team, roundabouts and speed bumps, they cost a lot of money as well, and they don't necessarily change behavior. What they do is they force cars to slow down, but they don't force you to look at your speedometer. And that's one of the challenges. The other thing is you can't implement speed bumps and roundabouts everywhere. There are some school safety zones where you cannot put speed bumps. And so what traffic calming measures would we implement there so that pedestrians and our children are safe? So I think we really want to sit down, Mayor Brown, myself, other municipalities want to have a conversation before the legislation is actually tabled, because we don't want to put lives at risk, but we do want to make sure that the program is fair and that Premier Ford is okay with it.
You've got about a month to debate the Premier on this one. Councillor Rowena Santos, Brampton Regional Councillor. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Beatrice.
And so what happens next, Bakari, essentially, if the legislation passes, which it likely will, because the Ford government has a majority government, essentially municipalities will have till mid-November, as the legislation is in place now, to start implementing signs around school zones like the one we're at right now in Etobicoke. And then by September next year, they'll have to have full implementation of this signage in place. And these speed cameras like the one behind me, they'll have to be gone, if this passes, of course. Back to you.
All right, CP24's Beatrice Vaisman.